Someone paid over $300,000 for Elvis Presley's first ever recording. A lock of the king's actual hair sold for way more than $100,000. And one of his famous guitars fetched over $500,000, while another soared past $1 million after being estimated much lower. Number 12. This blinged-out ring screamed, "Takin Care of Business." Okay, picture this. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, wasn't just about the music and the moves. He was also about the bling. Seriously, the man loved his jewelry. And one of the most iconic symbols he embraced was TCB, which stood for Takin Care of Business. This wasn't just a catchphrase. It was a motto for him and his inner circle, the Memphis Mafia. He had TCB lightning bolt necklaces made, and yes, he had rings made too. Oh boy, did he have rings made? We're talking serious, heavy-duty, attention-grabbing rings. One particular TCB ring that went up for auction is a perfect example of Elvis's flashy style. Imagine a chunky, solid 14-karat gold ring, heavy, right? Now picture the letters TCB right there on top, bold and unmissable. But wait, it gets better. These letters weren't just plain gold. Nope. They were absolutely covered in diamonds. We're talking about 27 sparkling diamonds, making sure everyone knew what time it was, TCB time. And flanking those diamond-encrusted letters, 2 lightning bolts. Also part of the TCB logo, adding that extra zap of Elvis energy. This wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a statement. It represented loyalty, a way of life, and Elvis's own unique brand. He reportedly gave similar items to his closest friends and associates, symbols of being part of his trusted crew. This specific ring, dripping with gold and diamonds, carried not just monetary value, but the weight of Elvis history. Someone saw this piece, felt that connection to the king's inner circle, and decided they absolutely had to have it. When the hammer finally fell at a Cruise GW's auctions event, the price tag was a stunning $40,000. Yep, $40,000 for a ring that Elvis likely wore, a symbol of his personal philosophy. That's some expensive business to take care of. It's a tangible piece of the Elvis legend, something you could actually wear if you dared, carrying the aura of the king himself. Think about the conversations it must have been present for, the stages it might have been near, the life it witnessed. No wonder someone was willing to pay the price of a decent car for it. Number 11. The record that started it, ALL, cost a fortune. Before the screaming fans, before Graceland, before the movies, before Hound Dog or Jailhouse Rock, there was a young man named Elvis Presley walking into a place called Memphis Recording Service, home of Sun Records. It was the summer of 1953. Elvis was just a teenager, driving a truck, and he had a dream. He also had about $4 in his pocket. What did he do with that $4? He paid to record 2 songs, My Happiness and That's When Your Heartaches Begin. This wasn't about getting a record deal. Not yet, anyway. Legend has it He wanted to make a record as a gift for his beloved mother, Gladys. He sang his heart out, pouring his unique voice onto a 10-inch, 78 RPM acetate disc. An acetate isn't like a regular Kaimuk record. It's usually a one-off recording, often made to check the sound or, in this case, as a personal keepsake. It's fragile, and the sound quality degrades with each play. This specific acetate was the very first time Elvis Presley's voice was ever captured on a recording meant to be played back. Think about that. This is the ground zero of the King's entire recording career. After recording it, Elvis supposedly took it to a friend's house because his family didn't own a record player. He left it there, and somehow, incredibly, it survived for decades. It passed through a couple of hands over the years, treated like the historical treasure it is. Then, in 2015, this unique piece of music history went up for auction at Graceland itself during the celebration of what would have been Elvis's 80th birthday. The pre-auction estimate was already high, suggesting it might fetch around $100,000. But when the bidding started, it became clear that this wasn't just any piece of memorabilia. This was the genesis. This was the acorn from which the mighty oak of Elvis's career grew. The bidding was fierce. When the dust settled, the hammer came down at an unbelievable $300,000. $300,000 for a single fragile acetate disc containing the first recorded sounds of the future king of rock and roll. It wasn't bought by just any collector either. Reports indicated the buyer was none other than musician Jack White, known for his love of Beagle and music history. It's hard to put a price on the very beginning, but $300,000 gives you a pretty good idea of how much that moment means to music history. Number 10. Someone bought the actual keys to the King's castle, Graceland. Just the name conjures up images of music history, rock and roll royalty, and maybe those famous musical gates. It was Elvis Presley's home, his sanctuary, his castle. Imagine holding the keys to that castle. Not replicas, not souvenirs, but the actual keys that might have unlocked the doors to the King's private world. Well, someone didn't just imagine it. They bought them. A set of keys, identified as the original keys to the front and back doors of Graceland, went up for auction. These weren't just any old house keys. These were keys that Elvis himself, his family, and his closest friends might have used. Think about the history attached to them. These keys granted access to the place where Elvis lived, relaxed, entertained, and created. They represent entry into the inner sanctum. The keys themselves were probably quite ordinary looking, maybe brass or steel worn smooth from use. But their connection to Graceland and Elvis made them extraordinary. The story goes that these keys were given by Elvis's father, Vernon Presley, after Elvis's death to a relative who held onto them for years. Eventually, they made their way to the auction block, presented by Cruz G.W.'s Auctions. Owning these keys is like owning a tiny piece of the Graceland mystique. It's about the symbolic power they hold, the power to open the doors to the King's world, even if only metaphorically, now. Collectors and fans go wild for items that offer a personal connection to Elvis, something tangible that he might have touched or used. And what's more personal than the keys to your own home? The bidding reflected this intense desire for a piece of Graceland history. When the auctioneer's gavel finally fell, the set of keys sold for a whopping $50,000. $50,000 for a set of house keys. It sounds incredible, but when those keys belonged to Elvis Presley and unlocked the doors to Graceland, the price starts to make a certain kind of sense in the world of high-stakes memorabilia collecting. It's a testament to the enduring legend of Elvis and the allure of his iconic home. Number 9. Yup, someone paid 6 figures for Elvis's actual hair. Okay, get ready for this one. We're not talking about a guitar, a car, or even a sparkly jumpsuit. We're talking about hair. Yes, actual strands of Elvis Presley's famous jet black hair. And someone paid an absolutely jaw-dropping amount of money for it. It might sound strange, even a little creepy to some, but collecting celebrity hair has a long history. Think Napoleon or Mozart. For hardcore fans and collectors, owning a piece of their idol's physical being like hair represents the ultimate personal connection. This wasn't just a random strand found on a pillow, though. The lock of Elvis's hair that fetched the big bucks came with serious credentials. It was part of a larger collection amassed by Gary Pepper, who was the president of an Elvis fan club and a personal friend of the Presley family. The key piece of evidence: the hair was saved by Homer Gilland, Elvis's personal barber, for over 2 decades. Gilland reportedly collected snippets of Elvis's hair every time he cut it, sometimes giving them to fans or friends like Pepper. This specific clump of hair was substantial, not just 1 or 2 strands, but a noticeable lock. It came mounted in a display case, accompanied by documents and letters attesting to its authenticity, tracing it back to Gilland and its connection to Elvis. Provenance. The history of ownership is everything when it comes to memorabilia like this, and this lock had a strong story. So how much would someone pay for a clump of the king's hair, even with solid proof? Get ready. At a Cruise GW's auctions event, this particular lock of Elvis Presley's hair sold for an astonishing $115,000. $115,000. That's more than many people make in a year. Enough to buy a luxury car or put a down payment on a house. For hair, it just goes to show the incredible level of devotion Elvis inspires and the lengths collectors will go to own something uniquely physically connected to the legend. It's a price that definitely turns heads and makes you think about the definition of value in the world of celebrity worship. Number 8. The King's Own Bible sold for a truly heavenly sum. Elvis Presley's public image was all rock and roll rebellion, swiveling hips and dazzling jumpsuits. But behind the scenes, there was another side to the king, a deep and abiding connection to spirituality and gospel music. He grew up singing gospel in church, and it remained a passion throughout his life. He often turned to spiritual readings for comfort and inspiration. So imagine holding the actual Bible that Elvis Presley owned, read, and perhaps even marked up with his own thoughts. A Bible that was with him during the highs and lows of his extraordinary life. That's exactly what was offered at auction, a personal Bible belonging to Elvis. This wasn't just any Bible. It was reportedly gifted to him by his Uncle Vester and Aunt Pletz for his first Christmas at Graceland in 1957. It was a Holy Bible, likely a King James Version bound in embossed leather or a similar material. What made it incredibly special besides its owner were the handwritten notes and underlined passages said to be inside, Elvis's own annotations. While the specific passages weren't always detailed publicly, the idea that Elvis had personally marked pages, reflecting on verses that resonated with him, made this an incredibly intimate item. It offers a glimpse into his private thoughts, his faith, and the things he turned to for guidance. The Bible showed signs of use, pages possibly worn, the cover perhaps softened with time, all evidence that it was a cherished possession, not just something sitting on a shelf. When this profoundly personal item came up for auction in the UK back in 2012, it generated significant interest. It represented a side of Elvis, often overshadowed by his superstardom. Collectors recognized its unique value, connecting directly to the man behind the legend. The bidding was intense, reflecting the rarity and intimacy of the Beckett. The final selling price. A staggering £59,000, which at the time was equivalent to about $94,000 USD. Nearly $100,000 for a Bible. But it wasn't just any Bible. It was Elvis Presley's Bible, a window into his soul, making the price, in the eyes of the winning bidder, perhaps worth every penny. It spoke volumes about his inner life, a counterpoint to the thunderous applause and flashing lights. Number 7. This watch wasn't just any watch. It was a gift from the king. Elvis wasn't just known for buying flashy things for himself. He was also incredibly generous, often showering gifts on his friends, family, and members of his entourage, the Memphis Mafia. These gifts weren't cheap trinkets either. They were often luxurious items like cars, jewelry, and high-end watches. One such watch, an Omega Constellation, became a hot ticket item at auction, not just because it was a fine Swiss timepiece, but because of its direct connection to Elvis and his generosity. This particular Omega watch, crafted from 1/8K gold, was reportedly purchased by Elvis in 1960 or 1961. It featured an elegant silver dial with gold markers and hands, a classic design. But what made it truly special was the inscription on the back. Elvis had it engraved for his longtime friend and associate, Charlie Hodge. Hodge was a musician, singer, and close confidant who worked with Elvis from his army days right through the Vegas years, often handing him scarves and water on stage. The inscription likely read something personal, a testament to their friendship. Omega watches, especially the Constellation line, were and still are respected luxury timepieces. This model represented quality and style, fitting for a gift from the king. Imagine receiving such a watch from Elvis Presley himself. Charlie Hodge treasured it, and it remained a symbol of his close bond with Elvis. Decades later, this watch, carrying the weight of that friendship and the aura of the king, found its way to the auction block via Phillips auction house in Geneva. Watches with celebrity provenance always attract attention, but an Elvis-owned and gifted watch is in another league. Collectors knew this was a rare opportunity to own something directly linked to Elvis's personal life and his well-known generosity. The pre-auction estimates suggested a strong price, maybe in the $10,000 to $20,000 range. However, the bidding quickly surpassed that. The story behind the watch, the connection between Elvis and Charlie Hodge, and the quality of the timepiece itself fueled a bidding war. when the hammer finally struck, the watch sold for an incredible CHF 52,500, which translated to roughly $55,000 USD at the time. $55,000 for a watch, yes, but one with an unbeatable poco, a token of friendship from the king of rock and roll himself. It's a reminder that Elvis's legacy isn't just in his music, but also in the relationships he built and the generosity he showed. Number 6. The piano that lived at Graceland fetched a grand price. Think about the music that filled the halls of Graceland. Elvis wasn't just singing rock and roll. He loved gospel, blues, and country, often sitting down at a piano to play and sing for himself or for friends and family gathered in the music room. One of the most famous pianos associated with Graceland is a stunning white grand piano, a 1912 Nave model. This wasn't the piano Elvis first learned on, but it was the piano that graced his beloved home for many years. Elvis purchased this elegant white lacquered piano in 1957 for his previous home on Audubon Drive in Memphis. When he bought Graceland later that year, the piano came with him and was installed in the music room just off the main living area. Pictures often show this beautiful instrument standing proudly in that room, sometimes with Elvis nearby. Imagine the songs played on its keys. Gospel hymns late at night, maybe working out arrangements for new songs, impromptu sing-alongs with friends. That piano was a witness to countless private musical moments in the king's life. It wasn't just a piece of furniture, it was an instrument that Elvis actively used and enjoyed. The piano remained in the Graceland Music Room from 1957 until 1969. It became synonymous with the look and feel of Elvis's home during that vibrant period. Later, Priscilla Presley decided to redecorate, and the white piano was put into storage. Eventually, it left Graceland and passed through different hands. Decades later, this iconic instrument surfaced at auction. Imagine the excitement. This wasn't just any piano. It was the Graceland piano, the one seen in photos, the one Elvis played during a significant part of his career. It was offered for sale, representing a unique chance to own a large historical piece directly from Elvis's home. The bidding was expected to be high, given its provenance and visual appeal. When the auction concluded, the white-nabbed grand piano, steeped in Graceland history, sold for an impressive $179,800, nearly $180,000. That's a grand price indeed for a grand piano with such a royal rock and roll pedigree. The buyer didn't just get a musical instrument, they got a centerpiece of Elvis history, echoing with the phantom chords of the king. Number 5. Elvis's custom ride sold for hundreds of thousands. Elvis Presley. LOVED cars. Cadillacs are famously associated with him, especially pink ones, but his taste in automobiles was eclectic and often luxurious. He owned Rolls-Royces, Mercedes, Benzes, Lincolns, and even some more obscure custom-built vehicles. Among the most distinctive cars in his collection were his Stutz Takats. These weren't your average cars. They were hand-built, American-made luxury coupes with Italian design influences, known for their power, unique styling, and hefty price tags even back then. Elvis was reportedly the very first person to ever purchase a Stutz Blackhawk when the model debuted in 1970. He loved them so much that he ended up owning several throughout the early 70s. One particular Stutz Blackhawk III, a 1973 model, eventually made its way to the auction block, carrying all the swagger and style associated with the king. This wasn't just a car Elvis owned. It was a car he drove. Picture Elvis, perhaps in one of his Vegas-era jumpsuits or custom capes, cruising down the highway in this sleek, powerful machine. The Stutz Blackhawk was a head-turner, featuring a long hood, a short rear deck, distinctive side pipes on some models, and a lavish interior, often featuring gold-plated trim and fine wood. This specific 1973 Black Hawk III was purchased by Elvis directly. It likely had a powerful V8 engine and all the luxury appointments expected of a car, costing tens of thousands of dollars in the early 70s, equivalent to hundreds of thousands today. There are famous photos of Elvis with his Stutz highquays, including one particularly well-known incident where he let a bank teller admire his first one, leading to an impromptu photo op. This specific 1973 model was driven by Elvis for some time before he gifted it or sold it. Cars with celebrity ownership always command a premium, but a car owned and driven by Elvis Presley, especially a unique and stylish one like the Stutz Blackhawk, is in a different stratosphere. When this 1973 Stutz Blackhawk III hit the auction market via Barrett-Jackson, collectors and car enthusiasts paid close attention. It wasn't just a piece of memorabilia. It was a functioning piece of automotive history linked to the king. The bidding was fierce, reflecting the car's rarity and its incredible provenance. It ultimately sold for a massive $297,000. Nearly $300,000 for one of Elvis's personal rides. It's proof that the king's taste in cars was as legendary as his music, and collectors are willing to pay a fortune to get behind the wheel of history. Number 4. This jumpsuit shone like the sun and sold for a star's ransom. When you think of Elvis in the 1970s, you probably picture him on a Las Vegas stage, larger than life, clad in one of his spectacular, rhinestone-studded jumpsuits. These weren't just costumes. They were works of art, designed by Bill Belu and Jenna Tusset, becoming as iconic as Elvis's music and moves during that era. Each jumpsuit had a name, often reflecting its intricate design. One of the most visually striking and historically significant is the Aztec sundial jumpsuit, sometimes referred to as the Sun God or simply Aztec suit. This masterpiece was worn by Elvis during his 1974 tours and performances. Imagine a white jumpsuit as the canvas. Now, picture intricate embroidery and studwork in fiery oranges, yellows, golds, and blues, depicting motifs inspired by ancient Aztec or Mayan art, particularly a large, radiant sun design dominating the chest and back. It often came with a matching belt, equally ornate, cinching the waist and adding to the dramatic effect. This suit was pure spectacle, designed to catch the stage lights and emphasize Elvis's powerful presence. He wore this specific jumpsuit during numerous concerts, meaning thousands of fans saw him perform legendary hits while clad in this stunning creation. Photos and even footage exist of Elvis rocking the Aztec sundial suit, forever linking it to his electrifying stage energy during that period. Like all of Elvis's stagewear, the Aztec sundial jumpsuit was custom-made and incredibly detailed. The level of craftsmanship involved was immense, with countless hours spent on the embroidery and setting the stones. After Elvis's death, his stage costumes became some of the most sought-after pieces of memorabilia. Owning a genuine Elvis jumpsuit is like owning a piece of the Vegas phenomenon, a direct link to his live performances. When the Aztec sundial jumpsuit came up for auction, it represented a prime example of his 70s stage style. Collectors knew its value, both historically and aesthetically. The bidding climbed higher and higher, reflecting the suit's beauty and its connection to the king's live shows. It eventually sold for an incredible $350,000. $350,000 for a single stage outfit. It's a testament to the enduring power of Elvis's image and the artistry that went into creating his iconic look. That's enough sunshine to make anyone's wallet feel the heat. Number 3. Possibly his most famous jumpsuit. It cost more than a mansion. If there's one Elvis jumpsuit that might be even more famous, more instantly recognizable than almost any other, it's the peacock jumpsuit. This stunning creation is considered by many fans and collectors to be one of the absolute pinnacles of Elvis's stage wardrobe, a true masterpiece of design and rock and roll iconography. Why is it so famous? Well, for starters, it's visually breathtaking. Picture a brilliant white jumpsuit, again the signature canvas of the era. Now imagine intricate embroidery and hundreds upon hundreds of shimmering studs in shades of blue, turquoise, green, and gold, forming the image of a magnificent peacock, its feathers fanning out across the chest, back, and down the legs. The level of detail is simply astounding. It often came with a matching cape, lined with blue satin, adding even more regal drama when Elvis spread his arms wide on stage. But its fame isn't just about its beauty. The peacock jumpsuit graced the cover of Elvis's 1975 album, Promised Land. That album cover photograph became an iconic image of Elvis in his 70s prime, forever cementing the peacock suit in the public consciousness. He wore this specific suit during concerts in 1974 and 1975, dazzling audiences with its sparkle and artistry. Designed by Bill Belew and brought to life by the meticulous craftsmanship of Jenna Doucette, the peacock jumpsuit reportedly cost around $10,000 to make back in the mid-70s, a huge sum for a costume at the time. It represented the absolute height of Elvis's stage extravagance. Given its fame, beauty, and historical significance, album cover, the peacock jumpsuit was destined to be one of the most valuable pieces of Elvis memorabilia if it ever came to market. And it did. When this legendary suit went up for auction, the excitement was palpable. This wasn't just any jumpsuit. This was THE Peacock Jumpsuit. Pre-auction estimates were already sky high, but the final price exceeded many expectations. It sold for an absolutely staggering $300,000 back in 2008. Think about that. Over a decade ago, it fetched the price of a very nice house. Adjusted for inflation, its value today would be even higher. That price tag reflects its status as a true holy grail item for Elvis collectors, a wearable piece of art intrinsically linked to one of the most famous entertainers the world has ever known. Strutting its stuff, indeed. Number 2. The guitar from that iconic satellite show. Yeah. It sold for ALOT, January 14th, 1973. Elvis Presley performs Live from Honolulu, Hawaii. But this wasn't just any concert. It was Aloha from Hawaii via satellite, broadcast live to over 40 countries and territories across Asia and Oceania, and later shown in edited form in Europe and North America. It was the first time a solo entertainer's concert had been beamed around the world by satellite. An estimated 1 to 1.5 billion people watched it, making it one of the most watched broadcasts in television history. Elvis was at the peak of his 70s charisma, dressed in the iconic white American Eagle jumpsuit. And for parts of this legendary show, he played a specific, equally iconic guitar, a 1969 Gibson Dove acoustic. This wasn't just any Gibson Dove. It was Takin for the King. While typically featuring a natural wood finish, Elvis's was a striking ebony black. More importantly, it had a custom inlay on the fingerboard. His name, Elvis, Presley, inlaid vertically in mother of pearl. And on the body, below the bridge, was a distinctive round sticker, the Kenpo Karate decal, reflecting Elvis's passion for martial arts. This guitar was right there slung over Elvis's shoulder as he performed for a global audience. He played it on several songs during the concert, its image beamed into homes worldwide. It became instantly recognizable, forever linked to that historic event. Then came one of the most famous moments associated with the guitar. At the very end of the concert, in a spontaneous gesture of rock and roll energy, or perhaps showmanship, Elvis took off the Gibson Dove and tossed it out into the audience. Imagine being the lucky fan who caught that piece of history. The guitar was retrieved and eventually made its way into the hands of collectors. Owning the Aloha from Hawaii, Gibson Dove is owning a piece of television history, music history, and Elvis history, all rolled into one. Its connection to such a monumental event made it incredibly desirable. When this guitar went up for auction via Julian's Auctions, the estimates were high, anticipating a six-figure sum. The bidding confirmed its legendary status. The final hammer price, an incredible $334,000, over $250,000 for the guitar that Elvis played during his global satellite triumph and famously threw into the crowd. That's a price tag worthy of a performance seen by billions. Number 1. This red, hot guitar from his big comeback sold for an INSANE price. By 1968, Elvis Presley's career wasn't exactly burning bright. He'd spent years making mostly forgettable movies and soundtracks, drifting away from the raw rock and roll energy that had made him a superstar. Then came the NBC television special, often simply called the '68 Comeback Special. Directed by Steve Binder, it was designed to relaunch Elvis as a relevant contemporary performer. And boy, did it succeed. Dressed head to toe in black leather for the famous Unplugged segments and looking lean, mean, and hungry, Elvis delivered performances filled with passion, humor, and incredible charisma. He reminded the world why he was the king. For the stand-up performance segments of the special, where he sang hits like Heartbreak Hotel, Blue Suede Shoes, and the newly written If I Can Dream, Elvis wielded a particular guitar that became instantly iconic, a stunning cherry red Hagstrom Viking II semi-hollow body electric guitar. This guitar wasn't actually owned by Elvis at the time. It was reportedly rented for the special, chosen for its sleek looks and vibrant color that popped on screen. But in Elvis's hands, it became legendary. The image of Elvis, clad in black or a stylish two-piece suit rocking out on that red Hagstrom is one of the defining visuals of his entire career resurrection. It symbolized his return to his musical roots, his shedding of the Hollywood fluff, and his reclaiming of the rock and roll throne. The guitar itself was a Swedish-made instrument, known for its quality and playability. After the special aired and became a massive success, this specific red Hagstrom Viking II became a piece of music history. It wasn't just a guitar. It was the guitar from the '68 comeback special, the instrument that signaled the return of the king. Decades passed, and the guitar, carefully preserved, eventually found its way to the auction block via Cruise GW's auctions. Given its incredible historical significance, tied directly to one of the most pivotal moments in Elvis's career and music history, expectations were astronomical. Pre-auction estimates suggested it could fetch anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000. But the allure of the comeback special, and the guitar that embodied it, drove the price far beyond that. When the final bid was placed, the cherry red Hagstrom Viking II guitar sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $625,000. Over $500,000. Some reports even mentioned the final price, including buyer's premium, pushed it even higher, closer to $690,000. That unbelievable price makes it one of the most expensive pieces of Elvis memorabilia ever sold, a testament to the enduring power of that 1968 television special and the man who held that red guitar, proving he was still, and always would be, the king.